I'm Aura, and I'm the host of Collective Mind, and I'm here with Onyx, my fiance, and the host of Primal Pack.
Hi, I'm Onyx, and the host. Sorry,
It's okay.
not really sorry.
We're gonna do another reaction video. This is to another short film. It's a student short film called Alters and Me. And, I haven't seen it before. Have you seen it before?
Not that I know of. Also, this was recommended by someone that had joined our Discord server and been
Yes.
hanging out. So if you ever want to put your input in for us to react to something,
Mm-hmm.
come join Discord. We love talking, hanging out, and like your suggestions are actually listened to.
Mm-hmm. And the link to Discord is in the description of all of our videos.
Uh-huh.
And you can recommend other types of videos too, not just reaction ones.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Occasionally, when a child suffers extreme emotional trauma, instead of experiencing post-traumatic stress, their personality shatters. Shattering.
I would argue that that is part of post-traumatic stress.
Yeah, I have some issues with the use of the word instead in that context.
Yeah.
It
I
is
mean,
not instead. It
they're
is
not independent of
both.
each other. They're not independent of each other for sure, but post traumatic stress disorder can only be a thing post trauma.
Mm-hmm.
That's in the name. Like it has to happen after.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like the dissociative stuff can happen in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I definitely don't like the way they phrased it, but it's not the worst. It's just
Yeah.
weird.
And like in the cases where DID is caused by trauma, like there's gonna be PTSD. I don't think I've ever heard someone try to argue that a traumagenic system didn't have PTSD. Some alters might not, might not meet the criteria because some alters might not know about the trauma and therefore not have flashbacks and stuff. But yeah.
There's going to be some effect from that amount of trauma. And debatably, having a system is a trauma reaction.
Yeah,
So,
for
like, it's a
traumagenic
reaction to going
systems.
through trauma. So,
Yeah.
that would definitely, like, fit within the PTSD category of it being a post traumatic as well
Yeah.
disorder thing that's going to affect you every day. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's complicated.
Yeah.
Into
Just seems
fragments
weird.
becoming archetypes called alters. They usually fit into categories like protective, aggressive, innocent. You get the point.
I I have some issues with the use of the word archetype, but I could let that slide because alters aren't necessarily archetypes. That feels overly simplified to me. But
It
I
is.
also don't like most of the examples of the types of categories that alters tend to fall into.
I actually think they did a fine job with that because like they they weren't using specific like system terms of protectors, littles, etc. They were
Yeah.
saying archetypes for like mentalities, mindsets, and like what their base characteristics might entail. So usually you have the part that is protecting the part that
Mm-hmm.
needs protected, which would be the protecting type archetype and the innocent type archetype or
Innocent
whatever.
has so many like
It
connotations that I have
yeah,
issues with. The one that
again, it's just
bothered me
word
more
choice.
though was uh
Aggressive.
aggressive because that's like the stereotype, which is
But it
frustrating.
I understand that, but it is also true. Usually there is some kind of aggressive in nature type alter in the form of not necessarily being angry and picking fights, but taking proactive measures to do things instead of curling into a ball. Like
Yeah, but
Protectors are kind
that's
of shields. I think the main concept would be like sword and shield for the person that they are protecting.
mm-hmm.
So the aggressive ones either try to get out of the situation or make it as
That's not
good as
aggressive.
they can. You can get out of a situation by being aggressive.
Yeah, okay. I don't know that I would have listed aggressive as like one of the top 3 examples, you know?
I agree.
It's definitely an
I think,
option. Alters can be aggressive, for sure.
yeah, I think it falls into the category of like, so examples from our system. I think Sid would be a protective type.
Mm-hmm.
Luna would definitely be an aggressive type, but
Yeah.
also a protective type. Someone like Little Vlad would be the innocent type.
Yeah.
And someone like me, who's a sexual protector, would be the aggressive type.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was part of our job.
Yeah.
And, like, instead of reacting to things that were happening, I would be proactive to keep things from happening worse.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what they were aiming for. I definitely agree that their choice of words is
Yeah.
odd and not the greatest, but
Yeah. Not sure.
This is a severe mental illness not easily understood. Its name is dissociative identity disorder, and I live with it. This is Maxwell. He was the first one to show up when I was a kid. When I'm scared, he shows up. He's brave for me so I don't have to be, fighting all my monsters for me. Max is actually my favorite alter. He's so sweet and he shows up to visit the most. I think he hasn't aged since I was a kid because that's when he showed up. He will forever be that age even as I grow, forever being my young little protector.
Again, I have issues with some of the wording. I don't like the idea of picking a favorite alter. I don't love the phrasing of like they're brave so I don't have to be, they fight my monsters.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it
It
feels
feels-
like it's falling into the I'm the real person and they're the like other.
Mm-hmm. Definitely has some weird vibes to it. I get what they're trying to say with a lot of it, I think.
He showed up when I was a kid. All of that stuff.
Yeah,
You know?
it has some odd phrasing and such. I'm trying to take it with like a grain of salt kind of thing and
Yeah.
be not so picky about it, but yeah, I definitely understand that there's issues with it. Because there is.
And this, what I'm about to say next, isn't as much of something that makes it feel less accurate to me or anything like that. It's just something I'm not, like, comfy with. But I don't like thinking of, like, young littles as protectors. Especially not as, like, primary protectors.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
I get that they can be, but
yeah, I completely understand that they can be, and that's, like, totally a valid thing. But our system is so thoroughly structured to not let that happen
Mhm.
that it feels like less okay to me, I guess. Like it feels like it should be flipped, but I understand that it's not that simple and that like littles can be incredibly like strong and brave and intelligent and mature and all of those things.
Mhm.
I still don't like the idea of them ever being in a position like that.
Yeah,
And
I definitely agree.
a lot of our protectors, like age-wise, grew up faster than the body because of the things they were dealing with.
Same.
And that makes more sense to me than protectors staying little. You know?
Mm-hmm. Like, you, especially as an adult kind of thing,
Yeah.
I get it, and I know every system can be different,
Yeah, for sure.
and I think it's mostly just an issue because, like, our system too, protecting littles and
Yeah.
people younger, smaller, seemingly weaker, physically, whatever like that, is such a core concept of who we are. For like, we have to protect the other people that are important to us.
Yeah. And again, it's totally valid. Like, it's not something that's like misinformation or a sign of faking or like nothing like that. It's just not comfortable for me because it's so different from how our system works.
Yeah.
Zoe was the next alter to show up. She doesn't show up as much anymore, but occasionally when I'm overwhelmed with stress, she makes an appearance. Growing up, she didn't necessarily help me win popularity contests. My therapist and I have come to the conclusion that Zoe was created for two reasons. One being the emotional support pet role manifesting into an alter, the other being somewhat of a Stockholm Syndrome situation, loving my abusers like a loyal, loving dog would. And this is Norma. She's the last alter that came into my life, but she wasn't like the others. She was mean.
I don't care. I don't need anybody. I don't need you. Fuck you. I don't care. Fuck you.
I didn't know I had dissociative identity disorder until I was an adult and started seeing my psychologist.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was.
There's a lot of people close now.
That was a little bit hard to watch.
Also, like, details of both of those descriptions of those last two alters in their system pissed some people off in our system.
Yeah.
Like, the phrasing of, this one didn't help me win any popularity contests, is frustrating. Like, and then it feels like it's getting dangerously close to, like, some of the language surrounding persecutors of, like, othering them enough to give them, like, progressively less and less reason to treat you better.
Yeah. And also, it feels like they are devaluing some of the alter's personality.
Yes.
And their identity as an individual.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to explain it, but it doesn't feel right.
Yeah. It feels very, very, like, host-centric, which feels, like, uncomfortable to me. Like,
like, this is just about them, and
yes. Like,
they showed up to protect me, which makes me the center of the story and stuff like that, when in reality, nobody is the center of this universe or this world. Everybody is a person in the world.
And
we're all side characters, kind of. There
Like-
is no main character in a system like
Yeah.
that.
And also, like, other alters, their roles and their, like, personality characteristics and all of that, those are about them, not about the host. Like, sometimes a role will specifically have to do with a specific alter. Like, an alter might form to be a protector for a specific alter. And, like, that's completely valid. But, like, generally speaking, especially in a smaller system, like, it's little things about the phrasing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like, trauma holders, for instance, like, Jade as a trauma holder is not, like, holding trauma for me. Like, she's not holding my trauma. She's holding her trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not mine unless I also hold it.
Yeah.
And
Like, I
that
could
has
understand it if
nothing
it
to
was,
do
like-
with me.
Yeah, I could understand it if it was like they're holding the physical and visual parts and I just
Right.
have the emotional because I can't handle them kind of thing or whatever. That'd be so much
Yeah.
different. But they. It's such a weird wording.
But, like, it all comes down to, like, they don't exist for me because I'm not the real one. And I wasn't there before other alters existed. Like, I was there before some specific other alters split. But
Yeah.
I wasn't, like, the first one who's actually real, and then other people, like, wandered into my brain.
Yeah. Like, I think a good way to say it is, like, when it first started out and, like, the first, let's just say, for instance, hypothetically, 2 alters split
Mm-hmm.
or came out of the one. The person originally split.
Mm-hmm.
Even if one of those is a protector and one is a host, that doesn't make the host the main person in the system. They are
Right.
both equal. They're both 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
And when someone else shows up, it becomes 33.3 repeating and 33.3 repeating for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And that number just gets, like, smaller and smaller and whatever. But
Yeah.
there is no, well, I'm 75% and they're 25%, which makes me the real one, which makes them here to serve me
Right.
or be here for me. And it's coming from such an I don't know if this is the right word, but like an egocentric viewpoint
Yeah.
of I'm the one.
Mm-hmm.
And it
They came into my life and they help me sometimes, and that one's mean to me. Like,
yeah,
it's not
and
like that.
It's their life too, and they went
Yes.
through really hard shit as well and
Mhm.
went through their own trauma or had to deal with their own things.
Yeah.
Like you said, you didn't know about DID until you were an adult seeing the psychiatrist. Okay, it might have been the same for them. So, from their perspective, you could have showed up in their life
Yep.
and they feel like you're taking over or like you're trying to shove them out of it. And that's
Mhm.
not how it is. It's not your body that you're sharing with them. It's everyone's. Everyone has equal value and rights. And it dehumanizes them. Like the language it's using dehumanizes them
Yeah.
and makes them. It's such an egocentric viewpoint
Yeah.
of just, I am the main character in my own life. And you kind of are, but that isn't entirely true.
That, and also, they are the main character in their life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I am the main character of my life, but Jade is also the main character of her life.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, we're each side characters in each other's lives.
Mm-hmm.
And we share the body, so we share one, like, physical life. but I don't have any more right to it than she does.
And I know it can be frustrating. Trust me, I know it can be really frustrating if, let's say, for instance, you were in the middle of a project or playing a game and having fun, and you were feeling good, and then someone else switches, and you find out 2 days went by, and you don't feel good this time, and you think, oh, they're just taking over my life, it's
Yeah.
ruining it, or it's such an inconvenience because my life is disappearing, and that's not a nice or accurate viewpoint to have. The feelings are valid, but that doesn't mean that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Because it's their life too, and this is going to be hard to say / hear, but it's very selfish to not want them to have their own life.
Yeah.
And to be, because like everybody goes through their own kind of shit, and I get that. But it is incredibly selfish to tell someone, no, I don't want you to exist because it keeps me from being like, I don't want you to be in line in front of me because it makes me have to wait longer in line.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's kind of rude. That's a dick move.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Let's keep going. See where it goes.
Yeah, it's just.
Mm-hmm.
Rough start.
Yeah.
So, before then, I didn't know why I would black out and wake up in random places having no memory of how I got there. Norma was a depressed soul, and I realized that's why I would wake up feeling hungover or with scars at times. I was always anxious and depressed, and I didn't feel like myself. I thought maybe I was bipolar, but when my psychologist explained my diagnosis to me, I completely lost it. All of those movies and misconceptions portray people with multiple personalities as dangerous, insane, like monsters. I didn't want to have anything to do with it. I struggled with this mental illness in silence for so many years in fear of what people may think if they ever found out.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's also one of the other things people struggle with a lot is realizing or not knowing that it's okay to feel whatever it is you feel, no matter
Yeah.
what it is. Even if it's hatred or jealousy, it's okay to feel it. Acting on feelings is entirely different than feeling feelings,
Yeah.
and just feeling it, totally fine. Acting on it because you feel it and treating it like reality, that's where the problem usually arises. Because you felt a loss of control. That's fine. Did you actually lose control? No.
I'm trying to, like, figure out what my thoughts are.
Uh-huh.
The big thing that we're getting really blurry, but the big thing that we're trying to figure out if we have any specific thoughts we want to share was on the bit about Stockholm Syndrome. Because I think part of me feels like that might be overly simplified in a way to use that term in this context.
Like for Nora? Or fuck, whatever the dog's name was?
Yeah, I don't remember the name of the altar. But it's, and like obviously we know basically nothing about this system and their specific experiences and all of that, but so like that could be totally accurate to their experience, but if they're using that term to describe fawning, I would feel uncomfortable about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, Stockholm Syndrome is a fawning response, isn't it?
Yeah, probably.
So
But I
I
think
get
it's like, I
that.
think it's a specific type.
Yeah, and
And maybe
again,
that was
I
just the easiest,
don't.
like, fast comparison for them to make in a 6-minute video. But,
Yeah. I feel like it could have been done a lot better, and it wasn't great already.
yeah.
Their word choices really mess with this whole thing of just being not good. Like, everything about their word choice is just. Oof. It conveys bad mentalities. It doesn't do, like, emotions the way it's supposed to, or that I think it wants to.
Yeah.
And I get, like, having some amateur type things about it,
Yeah.
but it's it's a stretch to go this far. I feel like
It gives me a little
it's
bit of a vibe of someone who maybe wasn't comfortable enough with their diagnosis yet to make something like this. You know what I mean? It feels a little bit like they push themselves too far too fast to make something, because like it feels like at least part of the point of this is supposed to be raising awareness, and including the fact that it's like scary and uncomfortable, and it's like an identity crisis and a hard thing to like get used to originally is one thing, but having that be the underlying feel of the whole thing, which it might not be, we're only halfway through it, but so far it is, and that feels like it spreads stigma.
the whole mood or vibe of this so far is just despair
Yeah.
and bad.
And maybe it's
And,
gonna wrap
like,
it up differently than that, but
demonizing
yeah.
DID as a whole. Like, if you have this, your life is over.
Yeah.
Kind of feel. And it's.
Or if
I
it
get that
like
it's
wraps
difficult.
up with the angle of like the other place I'm worried this is going is that it's going to wrap up with the angle of I can't wait until I get far enough in therapy that these alters don't visit me anymore. Because that's one of the perspectives that I see sometimes, that people think final fusion is the alters go away. And if you decide to go toward final fusion and achieve it as a system, the final person who exists will not be you as you are now. Period. It will be a combination of all of the alters who used to make up the system. So that might end up being fairly similar to you now, just with a lot more memories.
They're going to be there, and hating those parts is not going to make it easy to fuse or integrate with them, because they're going to feel unwanted and shut out
Yeah.
already. And it's also not going to make it easier for them to heal,
Yeah.
because they have their own trauma too, and there's almost never a good reason to judge someone
Yeah.
before you know their entire story or feelings.
To be clear, final fusion is a totally valid like option for healing. I'm not discounting that in any way. It's not what we're working toward. But this type of attitude, at least so far in this video, toward other alters would not help you reach final fusion or functional multiplicity. So it's
Honestly,
just like overall unhelpful.
Yeah. The way they're acting is more that of a persecutor than someone who's trying to coexist in the system, because they're presenting all the alters in such a way that they're not telling us who they are. They're just telling us their opinion of them, and it's
Yeah.
not pretty.
They
It's
have the
kinda
nerve to take over
not
my
nice.
life sometimes.
Yeah, and this one's mean.
Uh-huh.
It's like, I get it, but
Yeah.
it just doesn't feel like a well-structured video, because I don't think it's saying what they want to say.
I'm hoping that it's going to move toward this was my original impression, but all of these people are more complicated than I originally realized, and like I benefit from them being here, and I hope that they benefit from me being here type perspective.
Uh-huh. It would be really nice if it does that.
That would be really like satisfying. But we'll see.
That's kind of the trouble with going in with like blind reacts or whatever, though, is you don't know that, so as
Ready?
all we know now is that they're not great.
Yeah. Ready?
Yeah.
This place has too many colors enough to drive all of us
Hope I don't get a copyright issue for the song. That would suck.
Sometimes I think I'm dead, 'cause I can feel ghosts and ghouls wrapped in my head.
I don't know.
And I don't wanna fall
We've been pausing it
asleep
and kind of
just
talking over
yet.
it,
Yeah.
so it shouldn't be too much of an issue.
Guess we'll
Also,
see.
My eyes went dark.
It's using more of the song clip than I expected, though.
I don't know where.
I'm curious as to why. Because it just keeps going with the like despairing thoughts of my life's over, everything's bad,
Yeah.
horrible, and like the disorder is shit and it's rough. But presenting it as that isn't helpful to anybody else that has the disorder,
Yeah.
and it doesn't help them accept themselves. It just makes them feel worse. Because like while it is rough, it is manageable, and you can have a good life even with this disorder.
Yeah.
And presenting it so despairingly just takes away hope, which is such an important thing for people like us to have.
Come out and play.
Eventually, I was able to cope with the fact that I had this disorder. I actually came to be grateful for the coping mechanism that is dissociative identity disorder. If it wasn't for my alters, I would have had to take on all the abuse, all the trauma, all the painful memories that live with my alters, and not with me. As I grew and learned to accept my alters, Norma in turn learned to accept herself. She changed. She was no longer abusive to either of us. She grew into the caring and motherly figure that I always wanted. As for Maxwell, I owe my life to him. I love Zoe and Norma, but Maxwell has a special place in my heart. This brave little prince has rescued me from the very beginning, and although I don't need him as much anymore these days, I still enjoy his presence from time to time. He keeps me brave.
I mean, I'm glad they can inspire that, but that, again, it's just the mentality of everyone's here to serve me or help me,
Yeah.
and it's so egocentric and also invalidating of their own struggles and of your ability to exist as a person. Like, it's invalidating to yourself because of how much it takes away from you.
Yeah.
Because, like, it's okay to need help, but you're still a person outside of their help. It doesn't
Yeah.
it doesn't treat them like an individual,
Yeah.
which
Treats
every
them like a
alter is.
job.
Yeah. Or like a computer program that's there to serve the user.
Yeah.
And that's not quite what that is. Every alter is their own individual, unique person
Yeah.
for DID.
But like, to use Maxwell as an example, if he wants to, he deserves to front and spend time doing things that he wants to do and not only switch when you're in danger.
Mm-hmm.
Or like super stressed. Or whatever.
Maxwell is a kid. They're allowed to be a kid outside of helping you at times.
Yeah.
And they're also not required to help you. Because sometimes alters get stressed and overwhelmed too. Alters can still get traumatized, split from it, and not be able to handle their current duties because Maxwell was a child, and that's when they first showed up, supposedly, or they think.
Yeah.
So maybe they can't handle the real world or not the real world, the outside world and like adult pressures because they're a child still. And they can't handle a 9 to 5 job kind of thing because like there's no recess, there's no nap times, it's stressful, it's confusing, and that would be perfectly valid, and that wouldn't make Max any less of a protector because they can't handle that.
Yeah.
They're not built for that. They were built at the time to handle the situation they were in, not any and all situations, because you had no way of knowing that information then.
We're still really blurry, but I switched the picture and everything to Jayden because it's mostly me like choosing what we say right now. So
That's fine.
I'm not even sure if I'm necessarily more in the front than the other people who are blurry, but I'm blurry with a lot of people who often, when blurry with me, kind of let me take the lead, so. Alright, less than a minute left.
Home in this place.
Well, that's credits. Okay.
That's it? It just ends on that despair and sad ass song?
Apparently.
What the fuck? I mean, I guess they said they did manage to, like, cope with it, but that's...
It doesn't feel like it, though.
That's such an...
It feels like, I promise I'm okay with it now. I'm really, really, really definitely, completely okay with it now. You know?
Yeah, but it also sounds like... How to best put this? It sounds like they learned how to cope with things that are holding them back and causing them problems and an inconvenience, and that they're a strong, brave person because they learned how to accept Nora, who is just such an inconvenience for them. And it's such a belittling, talking down to it kind of mentality and wording
Yeah.
that it's just shit. It's just not nice. It just feels shit. Or like they're talking shit.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel nice or inclusive or validating for individuality or identity. And I have some issues with it. Definitely have some issues with it. I didn't enjoy it that much. It's not horrible. It's definitely not demonizing like most media with the ideas. But I think they got some very key concepts wrong.
You know, one of the biggest red flags I just realized in this for the, like, host-centric mindset? They introduced every alter except themselves.
That's true. Yeah.
Which implies the, I am the default, I am the real one. Here are the, like, basic characteristics of all of these other people who occasionally visit me and take control of my life.
That's exactly what it's like.
That was frustrating.
Very. Like, the way they talk about how they deal with coping with the system is like the way someone talks about dealing with smoking. You know, I'm dealing with the cancer that my lungs have now, but I'm doing good and I'm a strong person for it.
Yeah.
And it's not.
Like, the disorder sucks. A lot of things about the disorder really suck. But
The alters are not one of them.
yeah, the alters are the coping mechanism part. And, like, there are parts of that can be difficult, but it will be, like, not because the alters exist. It will be because of the coping mechanisms that some of the alters learned, or, like, the experiences that those alters have had. Things like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the existence of the persecutor, it's the things that made the persecutor persecute. But, like, at the core of most persecutors, if not all persecutors, is a trauma holder. And that is an extremely important and very unpleasant role. But in a way, it's like the core role of a traumagenic system.
Yeah.
I think we've said all the things we want to say about it.
Yeah.
It certainly could have been worse. We wouldn't
been
use
better.
it to
Definitely could have been
introduce
worse.
someone to the idea of DID.
Yeah, we wouldn't either.
We would have way too much we would feel the need to explain afterward. To be like, you know how they said and expressed this idea? Please don't internalize that.
Yeah. Oof. Thank you for the recommendation, though.
And feel free to recommend other things for us to react to, whether or not you think they're a good representation. Like, we're okay with reacting to things that aren't, like, awesome representations. If there's, like, major trigger warning type stuff, it would be nice, like, if you've seen it, to include those trigger warnings for us. But yeah, best place to do recommendations like that is definitely on Discord. But if you don't want to or can't join Discord for whatever reason, you can put it in comments too. We read all of our comments. Bless you, Charlie.
She sneezed and then licked my arm in surprise.
We're gonna wrap this up here. That was a 6-minute video, and we've been filming for almost an hour. So, I hope you liked our reaction. If you did, click the like button to tell us and YouTube, etc., etc. Subscribe and ring the bell to see our future videos. We're doing at least one video a week for the summer, as well as one live stream a week, at least. We're on average doing at least 2 live streams a week so far, though. And we love recommendations for reactions, as well as topics for normal videos, or games that you want us to play, or whatever. Discord links in the description. I think I said that earlier. There's recommended videos and playlists and stuff on the screen that you can click if they look interesting. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Bye. You gonna say bye?
No.
Okay.